Doot, doot. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
All right. We've got a handout coming around. There's only about...
Sir, in the back there, would you close the door?
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
Doug, you're on the tape again. My God, you're a miracle worker. If there aren't enough handouts to go around, I only brought about 25 or 30, I think there's in there.
Hey, wait a minute. Fred, is this your recorder? It's my recorder. That's a better one than I own. It may not be here when you get done.
If there aren't enough handouts, if you could just kind of look on with somebody, and then we'll get some more made. Or if you give me your card with an email address or an address or something, I can get more. We can get more to you. If we do run out, if we do, just kind of look on with folks. And
there is some seats up front. There's some seats up front. He's going to get right. He's going to be.
I'm a very emotional person. Get that out from the front of your top of the quarter. Right over there.
Oh, here comes the hand.
Great. Somebody call my remote. Put it up there.
Don't have a remote.
He did.
Don't have one.
I don't have a remote. I've got a remote.
I think that's better. Run all the
cable back in.
We're back way up.
Bar power cable from.
This is that little box that comes with it, the AC/DC adapter. And I don't know where this is.
Well, we'll just have to make it without it.
Try again. This is what we need to know. We're ready. All right, we're ready.
There's still a couple of seats right down front. You guys like to come and have a seat?
Some crowd, Gene, be careful.
Well, you got them warmed up. Good afternoon, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome you to our session on Successful Club. Don't forget, our theme for this year's convention was Gateway, Unity, Market, and Growth. So we're just glad to be here and share what little bit of knowledge that we do have about clubs. My name is Gene Baker, and I've been calling for about 26 years. And I have two clubs in the Charlotte area. One club that I've started 23 years ago, and it's still a successful club. It's been one of the biggest clubs in the state, and it's still holding up super good. And we've just been blessed for that. And I would like to tell you a little bit about the success of our club. And when I say our club, I mean my club and my wife's club down here on the end, Betty Baker. She is the motivator of me and the motivator of our club. And without her, I probably wouldn't be up here today. And I think that all of you need to look beside of you and look at the advantage that you have when you have a partner standing beside of you, and when you go to a dance, or a club dance or whatever dance there may be, when you finish that dance, you standing there and everybody comes up to you and say, "Gosh, you done a good job. That's a good job. Great job." How many times has anybody ever here had somebody to come up to you, whether it be a caller or a dancer, and say, "Hey, you done a lousy job"? You don't have that. But your partner can tell you that when you get in the car. And if she doesn't tell you that, she's holding back. She don't want to hurt your feelings. But my wife will tell me when I get through with the dance and get in a car, she'll say,
You suck.
"That's all right, Bob." But anyway, she's going to tell me whether I called a good dance or not. This is great, because I've been to dances, and I walked up to callers and say, "Hey, you guys done a super job," and I would have loved to told him the truth, but you can't do that. You just can't come up and tell a guy that he didn't call a very good dance, because he's not going to be your friend. But if we would have more of that, we'd probably be a successful club that you have. Your club would grow. But if you go out there and call that dance and it's not what it needs to be, and you can't see that club growing, then you need to go back and take a look at it, what the situation is. It's not the club officers. They don't call that dance tonight. They don't bring any guests in unless they go out and visit. And that's another thing we need to do as callers and callers' wives. If we don't take participation in what we're doing on an off night, if there's a dance in your area, you need to be there and take your club with you. This is the most important part of our calling careers, is to go out and visit and socialize with other clubs, other callers, other cuers, other line dance instructors, whatever they may be. And this it'll grow. And you'll see your club grow too. And another thing about motivation, like I said, that lady down there motivates me, and I love her to death. Without her, I wouldn't be nothing. To move on with our panelists, I've taken up enough time because I know they got plenty. On my right here, Ron Markus. Ron's been calling for about 30 years. He calls for one club in Colorado, Arizona area, and he does the calling, queuing. He calls through A2, A1, A2, plus. I'll go through plus, and that's enough, okay? But we're going to get Ron. And let me go ahead and introduce this other guy. I don't think he needs much introduction. He's, he's probably better than Marshall Flippo. If you don't believe it, ask him. From Houston, Texas area, let's give a big hand for Mr. Bob Baier. Bob Baier, excuse me. Bob's been calling about 30 years too. So on the panel up here, we've got about 82 years of experience of clubs. Bob calls for like 4 clubs in the Dallas area. Houston. When I think of Texas, naturally I think of Dallas. All right, I know it. But you guys have to forgive me because this is really my first time of being a moderator, and I'm used to standing up in front of a bunch of people that I know more than they do about square dancing. And now I'm on the other side of the mic. I'm standing up here, and I can look out and see guys that know a heck of a lot more and been calling a heck of a lot longer than I have. But we're glad to be here and participate in Caller Lab. I think this has been one of the best Caller Labs that we've attended, and we've attended a good many of them. And I hope we can continue to grow and be friendly and just go. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Ron. Incidentally, we are taped, so we don't have a portable tape, so a mic. So when you need to ask a question, we need to come right up here and talk into this mic so we get it on tape. Okay? Here's Ron.
See if this will work. Doot. All right. We'll just do it this way. This is the better way to do it. The handout. First of all, in your critique sheets that you fill out and you send back to the home office after Caller Lab, please mention this session in your critique sheet one way or the other. Okay, if you liked it, say so. If you didn't like it, say so. Honesty is the best policy, and besides that, it's an anonymous critique if you so desire. So it's not a problem. But mention it one way or the other so the home office knows whether or not something that they want to continue doing or change the format or what have you. Please do that when you do it, when you send those critique sheets in. What? Kibitz. Okay, my basic premise to a successful club is I've summed it up in one sentence. And for those of you who have the handout, how many people didn't get the handout? By the way, there's probably a whole slew of you didn't. I made about 25 or 30, and if you want one, let me know, and I'll give me your card or email address or whatever. The whole thing is emailable. I can, well, except for one page, I can email most of it to you and make copy and send that one page to you. In the handout at the very beginning, the only thing in this whole handout that really is my idea is the very first sentence. The successful club will provide an entertaining program for its members. Okay? The successful club will provide an entertaining program for its members. If it ain't entertaining, they ain't going to be members, they ain't going to be a club. It's got to be entertaining. And there's a lot of different ways to entertain, and a lot of things that the caller, as a leader, can do, both to entertain and to support the activities and operations of the club. As I said in the outline, the club caller and partner is a leader by example with high standards. You dress properly. You just exemplify square dancing. Exemplify the square dance caller as best you can, and people will follow along, and they will follow your example with the way you lead. The club caller will call an entertaining and interesting program that eliminates the boredom factor. Again, entertaining. You've got to be entertaining. It can't be boring. It's got to be entertaining. Otherwise, they're going to go out the door, and all you'll be seeing is the back of shoes instead of the front and the part of the people that has the smile on it. Oh, by the way, everything in here, like I said before, everything in here is the only thing that was my idea, or my comment, is the very first comment. The successful club will provide an entertaining program for its members. Everything else in here came from club people. I didn't write any of this stuff. This all came from club people. When CALLERLAB asked me to do this or to participate in this session, I went to my own club, and I said, "What makes us a successful club?" Because we're in Tucson, just a little north of Tucson. Is what makes us a successful club? And they, half a dozen or 8 or so of them, sent me back emails and gave me some notes at dances. And there's another club nearby that we call our sister club, and they did the same thing. So all of this came from dancers, not from callers and not from any kind of research or statistics that we did. So there's nothing statistical to back any of this stuff up. This is just what has worked for us in Tucson. Caller availability for all club-sponsored functions. The caller's got to be available to people. He's got to, if the club wants to do a demo, the club wants to have a workshop, round dancing, this sort of thing. If you have the capability for round dancing, after parties, meetings. Club caller ought to be available for when the club wants to have a meeting, planning meetings, whatever they want to be. And the caller ought to be a source of information for the club, to offer suggestions for parties, theme dances, this sort of thing. And I think, Bob, you had a comment on that. You said yesterday you wanted to make a comment. So here I am. Dances and lessons, caller availability for club dance sponsored functions, dances and lessons, round dance workshops, demos, meetings, after parties. Bob wanted to make a comment, but he forgot what his comment was going to be. We'll move along. There you go. All right, there you go. There's his comment. No, he's got something else. He'll think of it. All right. Update your technology, microphones, equipment, amplifiers. Make sure you've got the best you can afford to do the best job for your club and entertain them as best as you can. Update your music and choreography. Requires work. Requires buying records. It requires working with records and so forth, but it's well worth the effort. Back up to the top, eliminating the boredom factor. Now, here's something that I recommend that a lot of people do, especially when they're first starting calling. I don't know how many new callers or newer callers we have here, beside Doug. Tape your dances and critique yourself, and be tough on yourself. Tape your dances, the weekly dances you do. If you critique yourself and you're tough on yourself, you'll become a better caller. You'll become and also provide make your dances, your taped dances, the tapes of your dances available to other callers. And what do you think? Or to caller coaches, what do you think? And have them comment. Next one is good chemistry between the caller and the members. If you know their names, that's real helpful. Again, that takes work. You get memorizing. If you got 15, 18 people in your lessons, try to do the best you can to get their names down pretty quickly. Everybody loves to have you walk up to, as they're coming in the door, hi Bob, hi Susie, that sort of thing, rather than, hello, how are you doing today? And they know darn good and well you don't know their name yet because they haven't got a badge on and they're new. But try to learn their names as early as possible. Try to learn a little about everybody. And like in our area, it's our dancers are all retired. Try to find out what they did before they retired. Were they doctors? Were they lawyers? Did they have furniture stores? Did they work in a factory or whatever they did? You don't have to dig into their background fully, but just a little bit of something about them. It'll help you bond a little bit better with your members if you can do that sort of thing. Greet dancers as they come in. In other words, be there before the dance starts to greet people and say hello, and also say goodnight to people at the door as they go home. Be standing right there at the door. You get a whole lot of yellow rocks, and people like it. They like to, it's kind of, it provides closure to the dance, and it makes them realize that you're not the guy up there with the microphone for 2 hours, and then you pack your stuff up and walk out the door. You're part of what's going on. Here's a biggie that I think is absolutely essential. Teach classes at least annually without fail. Regardless of the number of people you have, especially if you dance, if your club is in a retirement area, it's very important to do this because people get old. And they die. No, they don't die, and not all of them die. They do that too. But there's especially in a retirement area, there's always the hip replacement, the knee replacement, the back that no longer can support dancing, could support a night of dancing. So classes need to be taught every year without fail, even if it's 2 or 3 or 4 couples. I know it's a kind of a drag to go all the way up there and do what you do for 1 square or something. We've been very, very, very lucky in Tucson that we've never had less than 2 or 3 squares. We had 6 squares one time 3 years ago. I mean, these people just fell out of the sky and like manna from heaven. But that's something that needs to be done, definitely by the caller, and make the classes fun and entertaining. We have fun nights before we even start. We have 1 or 2 fun nights, and the club participates in these en masse. They are there just by the droves, and they all wear the club outfits or they wear club T-shirts, this sort of thing. So the people coming into the lessons and to our fun nights see that this is not 20 or 30 people who get together once a week in the square dance. They see this is more like 60 or 80 people who get together and square dance, and they say, this is a big group. These people are all having a wonderful time, and this is a group we would like to be involved in. And as a caller, you can, when you're teaching your lessons and making them fun, people will be entertained, and people will want to join. One of the comments that one of our dancers made is they like the idea of structured and demanding lessons. At the beginning of every time we start lessons, we have a lesson plan that is for the entire season. It starts in November and it goes through the end of April. And everybody knows that next week we're going to learn this. And in 2 weeks we're going to learn this. And they also know that next week we're going to review everything we've learned so far. They know that there's going to be review nights. The entire season is planned from the very beginning. And as people come into the lessons, to start our lessons, they're handed this lesson plan. We also give them a mainstream book to start with. We give them a tape with all the mainstream calls on it. They can look at the tape. So our people are well prepared, or if they choose to be, they can be well prepared for lessons. Another thing you can do, again, it's an extra thing you can do, but it helps a little bit. If you do extra sessions for people who are taking their lessons, for people during the lessons, you make the sessions fun. You make them like a dance, teaching and not teaching anything, but just reviewing what people have learned so far. It gives them more floor time. It builds their confidence, and it's just another time when everybody can get together and just have a good time. And of course, you have the club people come and dance with them, so that they don't feel like it's us and them. The us and them mentality doesn't really work. Doesn't help things. Encouraging angel participation. That's something that the club caller can do. You can encourage club members who are already members to come out and angel. And you can accomplish a couple of different goals here. Number one, you get the club and the class knowing each other. So you help to begin defeating the us and them mentality. We're the club, you're the lesson people. That's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is with your published lesson plan, you can encourage people to come to sessions that are going to be devoted to calls that they may feel a little bit weak in. And you say, well, I'm going to teach that next week. Why don't you come out and we can come out and angel next week. And so it works. A lot of people do that. High standards for graduation and club membership. This is a toughie sometimes. You'll have, 2 or 3 squares in lessons, and everybody wants to get them out of those lessons and into the club real fast, don't they, yes? Right? We got to get these people in the club. Well, sometimes if you do that, you end up shooting yourself in the foot. And the club caller very often is the person called upon to let people know that this person may be somebody we need to talk to, or these couples may be somebody we need to talk to. And sometimes you find that this has happened to us here in Tucson, so I'm talking from experience here. Sometimes you find that if you ask someone to discontinue their participation, if you will, and come back and try it again next year, the whole group winds up being better off. And sometimes what's happened to us with one couple, they said, yeah, we're really not doing good here, and we feel real uncomfortable here, and we work with these people. We tried everything we could to keep them going and get them through, but they said, we're real uncomfortable. We'll just come back next year. That's okay, isn't it? And everybody went, oh, yeah, thank God. Okay, we'll see you next year. And they did. They came back the following year, and they kept on going, and they're part of our group. And that's what I mean by high standards for graduation and club membership. Now, don't just let everybody in just because they went through 6 months of lessons, bang, you're in. That's something you need to be concerned about, need to watch. And that's where the club caller leadership role comes in. You've got to take the bull by the horns and let people, the club organization, the club board of governors, the president, the class coordinator, whoever you're working with, let them know that this is something we need to do and take a leadership role in that area. Integrating club and class as soon as possible, preferably before lessons end. Have dances where club and class can dance together. The first tip, the second tip, after you get into some. Well, it doesn't matter. The fourth night of lessons on to the very end. You can do the first tip so that everybody can dance together. We've had a little difficulty doing that this year because of our schedule, but in the past we've been able to integrate club and class first tip together type of thing. Again, this brings club and class all together and makes everybody feel like we're all one big family rather than they're the club and we're the lesson people. We do have a round dance program in our club. I do the cueing. Some of you may cue, some of you may not cue. But if your club, I think you need to be supportive of a round dance program. It's something that in again, this is my personal feeling. It's something that helps to regulate the dance somewhat. The breaks are pretty much decided as how long they're going to be. You're going to have 2 rounds and that sort of thing. It also helps to bring people in who might not otherwise be there because they're there for the square dancing and the round dancing. So it helps to bolster your ranks a little bit, and that's worked for us. And if you can try to pick up dances here, there, and everywhere. Again, if you're cueing and you have the ability to cue and the ability to teach a dance. I don't teach lessons, round dance lessons. What I do is I pick up a dance somewhere at a festival or a dance that I go to somewhere, and I say, well, hey, there's a good dance that our club could do, and I spend maybe a half an hour now and then. It's nothing regulated. We don't do it every week or every other week. It's just now and then when I pick up a new dance somewhere that our people can do, I say, hey, folks, I send them all an email. I have an email list of all the round dancers in our club, and I just send them all an email. I say, next Wednesday at 6:15, we're going to talk about Dreamin' Cha that they taught at the Yuma Festival, and it'll be that sort of thing. So that's if your club is interested in round dancing, I'm not saying push round dancing down your throat. I'm not saying push any of this down your club's throat because then it'll just come right back out and haunt you. But if they're interested in round dancing, be supportive of it and do what you can to help out. Outside caller program. If your club has an outside caller program, I hope your club has an outside caller program because I think it helps the club to not dance to you every now and then. Just a little bit something different. Not that they're going to bring somebody in all the time and you'll be out of a job, but an outside caller program is a good idea. We have what we do in Tucson is we have a Saturday night special 4 times a year. Our hall is very difficult to come by. It's not easy to get that often. So we only do it 4 times a year, once in November and then February, March, and April, because our festival in Tucson is in January, so that's our sort of a special night. And then February, March, and April. And it's only once a month. But we bring in a round dance couple that has a very large following. We'll have 20, 25 squares. And it's a big party dance. It's always a theme of some sort. So we have a good time. And you as a caller, many of you know a lot of callers, and they may come to you and say, what do you think of this guy? Or what do you think of this lady as a caller? We're thinking about bringing them in. Or offer suggestions to them as to try to get this person, try to get that person. And email, callers, phone, get the CALLERLAB Club, the CALLERLAB roster, and go through that and pick out the names of people that you think might be a good idea and to come in and do some outside dances for you. That's kind of the compilation of what that is the compilation of what our club people put together. That were their ideas, with a few of my comments thrown in. And then the next page of the handout is what the club organization can do. And there should be a club organization. There really should be, and it doesn't have to be so tightly woven an organization that everybody feels restricted by it. It just needs to be enough organization to keep things going, keep things smooth. And but the club, one of the things the club organization can do is and this is just about a quote from one of our members: ensure a friendly, relaxed atmosphere of cooperation among members. Now, that's a mouthful, but it just means that the club officers, the club committee people, all need to be loose type people. They choose themselves, and they very often choose people amongst themselves who they'd like to work with, who do a good job in this area or do a good job in that area. Again, sometimes based on their background. Many of our club officers in Tucson at our club have not been very good dancers. They were not the strongest dancers in the world, but they were people who came from corporate backgrounds, people who came from municipal backgrounds, management type people that just knew how to manage things and get things done. And they also knew how to work with people and ensure a friendly and relaxed atmosphere. Friendship to guests. This is part of the business of the caller is also involved in this. They're greeting at the door and they're saying goodnight at the end. Our club also has a greeter program. They put people at the door, and if we have people come in they've not seen before, they will make sure that these people feel welcome. Come on and sit down. Can we? Has coffee over here? Just let them know where the bathrooms are and where the coffee is and that sort of thing. Make them feel warm and welcome. And that's the next thing, the greeter program. Of course, as the old saw, the next item on my list here is finger foods. If you feed them, they will come. And it seems like that happens. If it's always another square there, it seems, at a dance where there's food as opposed to a dance where there's not food. I don't know what it is. These people have all eaten, and 2 hours earlier they all ate dinner, because our dances run from 7 to 9 usually. And they've all eaten dinner at 5 or 5:30, and then took a shower and got cleaned up and came out to the dance. But the first thing that walk in the door, right over to the table where the finger foods usually are, they're starting to munch. Decorations, the club can always, and our club does this. Our club puts up decorations for just about every dance. We have a retired flower arranger, and he makes an arrangement for every dance. He goes on the table where the finger foods and the goodies are and whatnot, and it's just something a little extra special that can be done. And this is the next one. The next item on the list is an item again that came as a direct quote from one of our dancers. A convenient, attractive place to dance. And what they meant by convenient is they all live about within a half a mile of the hall, because it's a retirement community, but not of mobile homes and travel trailers and park models. It's a retirement community of permanent homes, from which they disappear a lot to go on vacations and take off for the summer and that sort of thing. But they all live within a half a mile or so of the place. And some of you, that's a difficult proposition to come by if you're not calling it a retirement community. But it's one of the things that they felt was helped to make the club a successful club. The next one, a couple of people made this comment. Goofing is not a problem. If you make a mistake in a square, nobody's going to be glaring at you like, you turned left and you should have turned right. Well, everybody turns left when they should have turned right every now and then. Nobody looks down at you when they do that. They all sort of ha 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 and move along. And we've been and the caller can get involved in this as well, in that he doesn't make a big deal out of people who make a mistake. You can do a lot of things. You can blame yourself for the mistake, or you can say broke down smoothly. What are some of the other things you can do? You can take some of the sting. Especially for a newer dancer who gets out on the floor and does something and he knows he made a mistake. You can take some of the sting out of it by making it humorous. And the next one is one I talked about just a little bit, a solid organizational structure. We've been very lucky in Tucson where we have people who understand organization, management, managing whatever they're managing, whether it be a corporation, whether it be a medical office, a flower shop. Like this fellow had, 4 or 5 flower shops in Idaho. And they just understand managing and organizing things, and they ensured that there was a good, usable set of bylaws. Everybody gets a copy of it, everybody's read it, and most people understand what's in the bylaws, and they follow the bylaws. The bylaws says you have a meeting every quarter. Well, you have a meeting every quarter. And so that's what that comment means, a good, solid organizational structure, a well-defined charter, and committee structure. The committee structure is what provides the continuity because our officers change year to year. But the committees keep going, and of course there'll be new people on the committee. But sometimes the committee members also keep going from year to year, or they'll become members rather than chairman of that committee. The chairman becomes a member, and a new person becomes the chairman. So the committee structure sort of provides the continuity from year to year. Decorating committee, outside caller committee, party committee, refreshments committee. Everybody's got to have a refreshments committee. That's something I commented about a while ago. Officers are chosen for their leadership skills, not their good dancing skills. And we've been lucky again, or blessed rather, not really lucky, but blessed in Tucson, where we've had officers who have been very good leaders and leaders of people and dealt with people. We had one or two people in the past who have been they ran personnel departments. They knew a lot about working with people. Many members involved. This is another quote from one of our people. Many members involved in club government and the committee system. As many people as you can get, the more people you have involved, the more people will feel like they're part of this, rather than it's me, I just show up and then I dance and then I go home. Well, you could just go bowling probably, or go to the show, or go to a theater and see a movie and have the same feeling. But this is supposed to be a square dance club, and these people want to be involved, and our club has structured itself so that people are involved. And of course, many of them, because they like what they're doing, they're having a good time, they're willing to be members. They're not. We don't. Oh, I don't want to do this. Take him. No, they're volunteering to do this sort of thing. They volunteer to committee to be on the committee to chair the committee for the next special Saturday night dance we're having, and there'll be a separate group of people outside of the regular committee people who do that, and they volunteer to do that sort of thing. Let's see, what else did I say here? This goes back to getting new people in the door. All members aggressively involved in personal face-to-face recruiting. That's another quote from one of our members. Everybody needs to be involved in recruiting new people to come into the class, into our new class. It's not the recruiting committee takes care of that, or the membership committee takes care of that. Everybody does something to be involved in recruiting and bringing new people in there. The open fun nights with large membership participation, that's something I talked about before. When people come into classes, you recruited your neighbor and the people across the street, you got them in there. If they come in, they see a large group of people having a good time. It makes it a nicer atmosphere for them to say, well, I'm going to join this group. It looks like a fun group to be involved in. Then the next thing I put down was just a sister club program. I don't know if you have another club nearby that you cooperate with in dances and lessons and this sort of thing. We do. And I think in square dancing in general, the C word ought to be cooperation rather than competition. Because if two clubs get together and cooperate, both seem to get bigger. Or two programs get together and cooperate, both seem to get bigger. Because people will go, we dance on Wednesday and our sister club dances on Thursday. So the Thursday people come to us and the Wednesday people go to the Thursday people. And so both clubs have gotten bigger and everybody gets to know each other, and it just makes it a bigger, friendlier, happier group. Monthly theme parties. Once a month, there's a theme of some sort, and you can certainly come up with something in every month that can be a theme. You can have a January white party. You can have the February is Valentine's Day. Then March is St. Patrick's Day. So you can come up with something every month, and if a month has nothing in it, then just make it. There's nothing special this month. Party. You know, any number of things, but something. And this is where the club caller needs to be involved in a leadership role, offering ideas for themes and parties, and being involved in the party to the extent of wearing the right costume, wearing the right clothing, the green, of course, on the green days, red on the red days, white on the white days. Dressing up if it's a special party where you say you're doing something with the outside callers, and a caller comes in from outside, your own club caller, you as club callers, maybe get dressed up a little bit more. Instead of wearing just a regular shirt like you do, wear a suit. Everybody goes, oh, who's that? No, it's something different to do that can help out to make everybody feel a little bit more like this is my group. Now, this is something that Stan Burdick talks about in the fourth page of the handout. I called Stan. He said, "Go ahead and make a copy of it, put it in there." It's something that Stan wrote in his notes about money. Spend club money on club members. And Stan's version of that same comment is there's too much dough in the do-si-do treasury. very often a large club, a large successful club, will have a large treasury. And there's really no point whatsoever in having a large treasury. Spend the money on parties. Spend the money back on the members. Spend the money on something. It's the members that put the money there. It's not really the club's money. It's the members' money, so spend it on the members. Do something. Do things for the members. And as a caller, you ought to be looking at ways to. Very often you don't know how much is in the treasury, except once a month you hear or once a quarter you hear the bank balance. But you know what's going in there, especially if you work on a percentage. You get 75, 25 type of thing. You get $75, $25 went in the treasury. A little bit of the arithmetic tells you, okay, that treasury has probably gone up by $300 or $400 this month, or whatever it is. And so you can have a pretty good idea, but encourage the club to spend to spend money on itself rather than just leave it there to get dusty and dirty. We have a monthly newsletter that we put out. I don't know if you post. Does everybody do that? A monthly newsletter that the club puts out? And it's read by everybody because there's all sorts of things in there. What we're going to workshop in when we have our workshops, what we're going to be teaching in lessons the next time. And people look at that and say, "Oh, I'm going to angel in this session because that's going to be AC-doocy, and I want to brush up on AC-doocy." So the club newsletter has a lot of information in it. The outside caller schedule is put in there, the dates and times, and who to contact for tickets and that sort of thing. So the monthly newsletter can be very helpful. And last but not least is something that we do. There's a couple of in Arizona. There's a lot of in the summer. The mountain clubs have festivals in the Arizona mountains. There's Payson, Prescott, Flagstaff, and Show Low, and each one of them has a festival at a different time of the year during the summer. And in the winter, Yuma has a big festival. So what we do is the club appoints a committee chairman to put together the Yuma trip, or to put together the Payson trip, or to put together the Show Low trip. And what they do is they go find a hotel. They look for other things, other non-square dance things to do in the area. They arrange that sort of thing. They collect money for the pizza party Saturday night before the dance, that sort of thing. So this is, again, an opportunity for people to get more involved in the club and in what they do. The last page, I'm not going to do anything about it, but the last page, no, I'm not going to read it. Certainly, it's a page from Stan Burdick puts out a note service called Mike Side Management, which our Callers Association takes. And a couple of months ago, in February, he had it was really, really timely for my purposes here, or for our purposes here for this panel. The article is called The Ideal Club. And it's a whole page, 2 sides, goes over to the second side, talks about what the ideal club is. A lot of what I've been talking about is in here, and there's some other things as well. But it's a good article, and again, if there is a handout and you've got one, that's just good. Take a minute to it sometime later on to read that thing. And there's a lot of good ideas in there that Stan has got, that he's picked up over the last 50-odd how many years he's been calling. But yeah, it was right after the last supper was on Friday. I think he started calling the following Tuesday, teaching lessons or something. So anyhow, read that, and again, I only made about 25 or 30 of these. If you want one, please make sure that you let me know, and I can email most of it. I can make a copy of this page from the note service and get that to you. But that's all I have to say. It's mostly just an outline form. There's a lot of stuff in there. This sort of thing you could probably go on for probably a week-long seminar on club management, just if you wanted to. But if you have any questions, let me know, and if you want a copy of it, let me know that too, and I'll make sure that I get your address, get your copy. That's it.
Am I supposed to speak? You got 50 minutes left, Ron. Get out of here. They'll only do that when I do that. Oh, no, they won't. Oh, yeah, watch. Go ahead, try it. Oh, now you Go ahead, watch, try it. My name is Bob Baier, and by the grace of God, I get to do what I like to do most for a living, and that's called square dancing, and I'm very thankful for that. A lot of things that Ron said, he had probably the greatest outline that I've ever seen, and the things that I'll express to you this afternoon are personal observations. Or personal observations that I've done, or things that work for me. Square dancing is such a multifaceted business, and there's so many different things, regional problems that we have, different cases for different guys. To say one blanket thing works for one person or for one area would be impossible. That's why we're all individuals, and that's why they make Fords and Chevrolets. If we had the perfect idea, of course, we'd have 1,000 people at every dance, and we'd have all that we want. The 3 facets that I'm involved in a club that is run by the dancer. and then I'm involved in a caller run club, and I'm involved in a seasonal activity. How many people here, how many callers here today work for a club per se that has a, it's club run, that call for a club that's club run? Okay. And how many callers here today work for their own self, where I call it, self-employed, working for their own club they run? And how many callers here today run a seasonal program? That would be 3. That's pretty good. I was just going to think it was going to be Randy and Jeff. Well, I do all 3. The club that I work for on Thursdays in Houston, Texas is called Hey Lollies. And when we say the successful club, I feel that we're successful. We have 100 couples plus, maybe about 110. I had graduation the other night, and we graduated 16 couples, and it's a very successful club. We do different things. The thing I feel about when you work for somebody else is it's nice to see that the caller runs the club without the club ever knowing it. Because we, as the leaders in the activity, have taken a trust from people. We have taken their money on the premise of several premises. Number one, we took their money telling them, A, I'm going to make sure you have a good time. B, you're going to learn something. C, you're going to have self-gratification through self-accomplishment. You're going to come here, complete a bunch of figures, have the wind in your face, and you're going to go home and say, man, that was great. I am somebody. I did something. And you're also going to have the opportunity to meet people, which would be D, and you'll meet people. The nice thing about our activity is, Dr. Lawyer, your Indian chief, when you put them on that outfit, put them in that dress, put them in that outfit, put them out on that floor, doesn't make any difference. It creates the neatest median that I've ever seen for people in our society today. We're all on the same level out there trying to do the same thing. So it's a fascinating activity, very multifaceted this activity is. So I always like to see where the caller that is behind the scenes and makes things go. We start with the basic premise, number 1, beginners, recruiting. I believe that our market is basically a warm market type activity. I know that we get some people in our Thursday night club that we run. We put out ads in the local little publication within the various civic clubs, for example. We'll run something maybe in the Houston Chronicle and things like that. But there's nothing like the people that go out and say, hey, I found something you won't believe. I've taken up square dancing. Well, I've also gone to the idea of where I tell them to go out, I found geomotion. Now, when you ask me, what's geomotion? We'll try this again. Well, geomotion is what square dancing really is. It's geometry in motion, because we work with angles and we work with different degrees, and the calls are 180 degrees and 360. And I tell them, when you go out and tell them you're involved in geomotion, it'll keep you from having to explain, no, we don't do what they did in the parlor on the Beverly Hillbillies. No, it's not what they do on the Louisiana Hayride. I spoke in the meeting the other day, in Doug's meeting, at the Plus meeting. I said one of the bad connotations that we have in square dancing is when we send people out, and in high school or junior high school, they've already had exposure to it, where a 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade boy does not want to take hands with a girl who has cooties. But these things remain with people, and they remember it, and it's one of the blemishes on trying to get people involved in our activity. So therefore, when I send them out, I say, hey, it's called geomotion. I go, what is a geomotion? I don't know, but I got this guy, Bob, and it's like square dancing used to be. And I want you to come on Thursday. If you can find somebody, when I send my dancers out and they say, that sounds interesting and I'd like to try it, there's the commitment. Motivate your dancer. We, as the person behind the mic, motivate the dancer. Because if we don't, there's no one else to motivate them. Yes, the activity will motivate them to a point. Yes, accomplishment will. But we, as the caller, have the biggest influence. We are the biggest influence they have. So I send them out and I teach them, look, your first commitment was when they say, gee, I'd kind of like to try that. You've got them. You tell them that's fantastic, and if you're serious about it, you say, great, I'll pick you up 7 o'clock on Thursday. And besides that, I tell them you're going to buy them dinner afterwards. It doesn't have to be Chateaubriand or anything like that. Yeah, McDonald's, Jack Burger, anything, 99-cent menu, Wendy's, whatever you got. But tell them that to entice them to go. They'll forget about dinner because they'll have such a good time on their first night. And I believe that sincerely. You can tell I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in this activity, and I believe it's going to go in the right place and in the right direction. So send them out there. That is our biggest part, is in recruitment of dancers. And when we get the beginners, then just like Ron said, names. There's nothing more precious to someone than their own name. And boy, do they like to hear it. And a lot of people say, well, I can't learn names. Well, when you tell yourself, I can't, you bet you can't. Anytime you've ever told yourself, I can't do something, I'll bet you couldn't do it, could you? Never tell yourself that. Don't be a defeatist. Be positive. Go forward. You can say, it's hard for me. Okay, different things are hard for different people, but let's get out there and try, So those are the things we do in the way that I try to get people motivated for the Successful Club for Beginners. And our beginners, as we work them through the lessons, we try to make things interesting. I have Sunday afternoons that I run, and I don't like to work on Sundays, but we have Sunday afternoon from 2 to 4. Once a month when I get together, I have a review to keep them interested. We do the same thing on Ron's outline. We have a Christmas party for them by themselves so they can do their own things. And then we come to the point of what? Graduation. Ron made a great point where he talked on square dancing people who have, let's say, trouble learning to square dance is how we could phrase that. Square dancing is not for everybody, let's be honest. If we all got to do what we wanted to do, I'd have just played the Masters. You know, but sure we would have. You know, somebody would have been out driving a race car last Sunday at Daytona. Square dancing, we want it to be for everybody, but different things for different people. And when you take people's money for square dancing to teach beginners, I feel I've got 3 responsibilities. Number 1, I've taken your money on the premise, I'm going to teach you to dance. And if it doesn't work, I've let down myself, I've let down the club who hired me, and I've let down the people who I took the money from and the other classmates. So it's a very touchy situation, but we have to watch that. Because some people, it's not for everybody. And why? We never want to belittle people or anything else, so we be careful. And some people I suggest, like, have you ever tried, instead of geomotion, underwater basket weaving? And, or bowling. Bowling sounds good for you, or, things like that. So be careful with what you do with that, but don't sacrifice the minority for the majority. When we get to the final day, that's our favorite day, which is called graduation, I see a lot of different cases where people have tricks or they do stunts on the new people. I personally, once again, P.O., personal opinion, this and the buck will get you a cup of coffee at McDonald's down the street, but I personally don't believe for that. Why would I want to humiliate or make a fool out of the person we worked so hard to get, who is so fragile, who I'm trying to incorporate into my club, and I want to put a bag on their head and try to circle left? Some people think, oh, that's great. To me, it's not an alternative. We don't do that. I put them in the club after graduation, of which we had last week when I was home. When I was home for a week for square dancing, I'm usually home every Thursday for this class. And then we have what we do to seal our group together. We have a private weekend at the end of the month on April where they have another caller that works with me, and we go away, and we have a square dance for that weekend, Friday, Saturday evening, Saturday night, with like a hotel with banquet meals where they can meet the club and get to meet everybody one-on-one. Being such a large organization, this is very easy for everybody to meet everybody and become more associated with, more, give me a word, friendly, associated. Thank you very much. Well, we'll knock it off. The English language is my second language. Familiar, that's the word. Thank you very much. Don, I'll buy you one later. More familiar with the club members at a very faster rate. So this is what we do. I had one of my club members come up that was out of the class. He said, Bob, we have like 70 to 80 couples is what we average that go away. And he said, I could never met that many people in such a short period of time. So these are things that work. Just like the outline that Ron gave you, you take them for what they're worth. You plug in what you can. But to me, you always remember one thing. We're where the buck stops. We are it. We are the voice of authority. We have the power of the mic to make things work better, smoother. Now, for the example, I saw a bunch of people raise their hand on the caller run club idea. I run my caller run clubs, my Bob's Best, and that on the premise of, let me turn this over so I can read this and I can get this right. I run those on less organization, more recreation. We have the opportunities where in square dancing people are willing to be officers, where people do get involved in club dress, where people do like the structured activity, and then we get the guy that's been there for maybe 5, 10, 15 years, whatever, or maybe 1 or 2 years, and they want to go, pay their money, dance, and go home. This activity can afford that for everybody. We have different strokes for different folks. We can put them in that. So I run the same type of activity where they come, they pay, they go home. I have 2 couples that help me run the front door. There's no club dress. You can buy a badge if you want to or a jacket. That's available to you, but you don't have to. You come, you dance, you go home. Christmas time, we will throw a party and we'll have some punch and things like that. But other than that, it's just a dancing activity. That program is successful for me. It runs a little over 10 squares on my Wednesday night group. I run a seasonal activity also in South Texas, in McAllen, which we bill as the square dance capital of the world because of the McAllen Chamber of Commerce sponsors for us what we believe is the largest square dance class that is put on in the United States. This year I think it was like 42 squares, and they put us on TV and radio and get it all together. They give us the McAllen Civic Center, and they put us in there to run these lessons. We run them for 3 weeks as an introduction, and then we put out flyers for the rest of the parks, for the RV parks that we run the lessons in, where they are paid lessons for the rest of the callers in the valley, for those that are sincere about going through square dancing. But what it does for us, it gets us in front of more people than we can ever possibly do on our own. Using the Chamber of Commerce in your area, if you've ever thought was a tool, you've never tried it, try it. A Chamber of Commerce, of course, is to what? Promote its members. Promote activities so people buy things. Go to them. You never know until you try, and I believe in trying all options that are available. So that's the third program that I run that's a seasonal type program. But square dancing to me is like they went to a bunch of inner city kids and they asked them, why are you in gangs? And they said, well, it's the only thing where I could feel like I belonged, where somebody cared. Well, the nice thing about square dancing, of course, is the fellowship and everything else. But people learn, they have camaraderie, and they have fellowship, and they feel like they belong. And if we can get them through the front door, well, what is it? If you feed them, they will come. But if you have square dancing, they will come. We're going to open this. I want to, Betty, aren't you going to speak for a minute? Good. I was reading over Betty's shoulder, and she's got some great ideas. Remember, these are ideas, and we'll have a question and answer here in a while to give and take. But I thank you for this opportunity, and remember, we have the power from behind the mic to make these things work. Thank you.
I'm not a speaker, but the key to our successful club is that when Gene accepted to be the caller for the club, we decided that it would be a caller-club partnership. This, we knew that it would mean giving either 100%, 90%, but that we would be willing to do anything that we asked a club member to do. This included all the activities, visitation, fundraising, advertising, and promoting. We have learned to love and respect each member of the club, not only the officers, but all the club members. And I have a couple things for the callers I'd like to remind. It is so uplifting to a dancer to hear the caller expressing the appreciation that he has for the dancers coming. They do deserve recognition because they are paying your salary. I'd like to ask, what % are you giving to your club? That's all.
Thank you, panel members. We appreciate your input, and I think it was great. Now we'll open it up for questions, but I need you to come stand right up here and ask your questions so we'll get it on the mic if we do have any questions.
Okay, Jürgen Hem from Bamberg in Germany. Not really a question, but a comment. I think what Bob said was tremendously important, that we have to think about the commitment in square dancing. We hear so many comments that square dancing is for everybody. We can teach everybody to square dance, and we can get everybody to square dance. I don't think that's right. It's not for everybody, and we cannot make everybody learn it. But those people whom we are honest with, when I have beginners in the first night, I tell them, for some couple of weeks, you've got to be there. At least every other week. Maybe because they can't, because they're working night shifts or whatever. And I tell them, this is going to be fun, but it's going to be tough. Because whenever you learn something, I'm going to hit you with something new that you have to learn, and you will learn it. But I guarantee, once you've been through that, never ever will you be bored. I don't care if you dance for 5 years, for 50 years, never ever will you be bored with square dancing. Thank you.
Anyone else? Here's a good time to speak.
We couldn't possibly have said it all. That's impossible. If we get a little longer than that.
If we don't have any more questions, we'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody for coming out to the Successful Club meeting this afternoon. And we hope everybody continues on to have a Super Caller Lab meeting and have a safe journey home. Thank you.
And again, don't forget to mention this session in your critiques when you turn them in to the office or when you mail them in later on. All right? Thank you very much.